This episode is brought to you by Chevy Silverado. When it's time for you to ditch the blacktop and head off-road, do it in a truck that says no to nothing. The Chevy Silverado Trail Boss. Get the rugged capability of its Z71 suspension and 2-inch factory lift. Plus, impressive torque and towing capacity thanks to an available Duramax 3-liter turbo diesel engine. Where other trucks call it quits, you'll just be getting started. Visit Chevy.com to learn more.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality walking shoes, which might lead to another discovery.
40,000 steps, baby. Who's on top now, Karen?
You've taken the office step challenge a step too far. Don't worry, though. Sierra also has yoga gear. It might be a good place to find your zen. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Hello and welcome to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast with me, Rich Ferraro. And this is your Friday 5 news roundup on Good Friday, Friday the 18th of April. Just a few days before Forest play against Tottenham and after 2 defeats in a row for Nuno's men. So we'll be talking about the form of the first team, the issues going on in terms of, the whole thing to do with Cup and League and so on and so forth. But before we do any of that, let's head straight over to the 1865 news desk, where we're joined by Jamie.
Hi, this is Jamie Martin with the top 5 Forest stories from the 1865 news desk. Now, the Premier League setback for Nottingham Forest as they had hits to their Champions League aspirations with a 1-0 home defeat to Everton on the 12th of April. Abdoulaye Doucouré scored the decisive goal in stoppage time, ending Forest's unbeaten run at the City Ground since November. Forest now 4th in the Premier League after a good match from Newcastle the other day. And of course now Forest hoping that they can continue in their pursuit for the Champions League and get some good results in the last few fixtures. Now in transfer news, James McAtee is being touted as a potential signing for Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest have entered the race to sign Manchester City midfielder James McAtee this summer, joining Bayer Leverkusen in pursuit of the 22-year-old talent. Now McAtee, who's found first-team opportunities limited at City, although in recent times has started to creep his way into the team, could be available for around £40 million. Some reports suggest, however, the value is currently fully unknown. Forest do view him as a potential addition to bolster their attack. Now in other news, the B team have reached the International Cup final. Forest B team secured a place in the Premier League International Cup final with a 2-0 extra-time victory over Athletic Bilbao. Goals from Archie Whitehall and Manny Norcutt sealed the win, highlighting the club's promising youth development. In other news, season card renewal deadline has passed. Season card holders had until 5 p.m. yesterday to renew their seats for the 25-26 campaign, with the renewals being processed through the club's official website. Do let us know how you got on with that. And finally, Forest Women are nearing title glory. Nottingham Forest Women are on the brink of clinching the FA Women's National League Northern Premier Division title after a commanding 7-0 victory over Liverpool Feds on the 13th of April. With 2 games remaining, they lead the table and are just 4 points away from securing the championship. The team will play their final away match of the season against Stourbridge on Sunday, the 20th of April. A significant milestone for Forest Women, who look to get promoted and keep doing well, and using that investment from the ownership as well to eventually, hopefully, get themselves to the WSL. Brilliant news for the Forest ladies and a fantastic victory for them. That is all, though, from the 1865 news desk this week. I'm Jamie Martin. Be sure to catch up with me via @I'mJamieMartin on X or JamieMartin_media on Instagram, or even Jamie Martin on YouTube. Go for it. Anyway, have a great week. Take care of yourselves.
Thank you very much to you, Jamie. And hello to you, Maradona of the Midlands. How are you doing?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Good. Well, it's nice to have you here. And let's go straight into discussing some of those stories that Jamie brought us. And the first one to report on is, of course, the defeat last week to Everton. Now, interestingly, in a group chat that I was in, there was a fan of a non-rival club who was saying, "Oh, Forest Champions League hopes look a little bit iffy now," and I was a little bit taken aback by that, because I was thinking, you know what, the main thing is actually that it's just that cushion had gone, and of course we have moved down in the table because of Newcastle finding form and very emphatically winning on Wednesday night. But we're still in the Champions League places, aren't we? And we're still, unless something catastrophic happens, in pole position to capitalise on that.
Yeah, I think it's just the fact that we lost to Everton, who are sort of quite a way down in the table. I sort of thought probably people, both inside and outside the fan base, probably panicked at that thought, and makes it look like a bad defeat. The Aston Villa one maybe could have been predicted. It was a tough away game. I think Villa have only probably lost, I think it's just one game there all season. So I don't think many people are expecting us to go there and win. And our home form's been so strong that we were probably expected to beat Everton. But they're a tough old unit to play against now. Yeah, you're very right in what you say, that the cushion's gone now. But I mean, we've 6 games to go. We're 4th in the table, and we've got the points on the table. The teams underneath still have to win their matches and hope we slip up. And a lot of them are playing against each other as well. So I'm still relatively confident that we will finish in those top 5 European Champions League places.
So I'll come back to the Everton match in just a second. One thing that I'm just going to ask you, put you on the spot a little bit. Forest are currently on 57 points, 6 games to go. Above us, Arsenal are on 63 and Newcastle are on 59. What do you think is a realistic points total for the Reds by the time we hit the last day of the season?
Ooh, okay. So I think I've got us down for probably a couple of draws and then the rest as wins. So let's do the quick maths quickly. So it's 14 points. So that takes us up to...
It'll take us to 71.
71 points, yeah. So I think...
And if we can do that, that's a fine return, isn't it?
It is. It's a very good return. Teams are going to play each other. It's Villa Newcastle at the weekend. We are playing Chelsea. I'm very confident we'll beat them. Having watched them play in Europe last night, they're pretty terrible. So let's not panic. Let's just all keep our heads, everybody.
Now, the other thing about the Everton match I wanted to talk to you about is, you mentioned that word panic, the fan reaction. Now, as usual, our usual kind of caveat of, we know that social media is not necessarily a bellwether of real life, but the fan reaction is as if we were about to get relegated or something. People went absolutely crazy last weekend.
Well, I'm glad I'm not on social media, because I didn't see any of that, so I missed all that. But it was a terribly gut-wrenching thing to happen. Right at the end of the match, I had my head in my hands, and it's disappointing. And then some people don't handle disappointment well. They should know better. I mean, you're not going to win every single game, and there's nothing to panic about. It would have been nice to have won. It would nice to have won that game and sitting in a more comfortable position. I was sitting there thinking, if only we could have got that win, we'd been so much closer. But it wasn't to be, so let's just move on. Let's take the next game as it comes and hopefully win that one.
Okay, in the spirit of moving on, let's move on to Jamie's second story. So a bit of speculation here that the young Manchester City winger James McAtee is being linked with a move away from Man City. And I'm just going to throw out there that generally, if Pep wants a player to to go, he tends not to play them in his first team. Once a player makes his way into the Man City first team squad, it's usually a sign that Pep sees a future for them there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you've got a point, but I think it's just that time of the year when stories are going to start cropping up, and especially if we do qualify for the Champions League, there'll be half a dozen players linked to us every single day. He may not interest Forest. I've got no idea. But the sort of prices Jamie was quoting there, £40 million seems a hell of a lot of money for him. He's a neat and tidy player, as everybody who plays at Man City is, but I haven't seen anything particularly special about him. I wouldn't be particularly bothered if we signed him or didn't sign him. I'm not somebody I'd put in my top 10 list of transfer targets. I'm not quite sure what he is, whether he's a midfielder or a striker or something in between, as they tend to be at Man City. So I don't know if there's much truth in that rumour, and even if there is, I wouldn't be particularly keen on him, to be honest with you, having seen him play for Sheffield United and City. I'd like to set my sights a bit higher, if I may, especially if we're in the Champions League. Let's look at even better players.
Is it a reflection upon McAtee that when he was at Sheffield United, and obviously in a season when they were struggling really quite badly, and even then he couldn't really get much in the team? Okay, on the one hand, young player, but on the other hand, if he's that talented and that has that much ability, both in terms of physical and mental attributes, surely he'd have been in the team every week and would have been like their leading light.
Yeah, and I think it's a physicality of him that I'm sort of unimpressed by. He seems quite a slight figure, and I think.
And we've already got Ramon Sosa. Yeah,
and it's just such a. We've shown this season what having a physical presence in the team, how important that is. It's the physicality seems to be becoming more and more important every year. City have really struggled once they lost Rodri. They lost that physical presence in their team. So I'd rather see a young, powerful, fast player come into the team if we are going to bring anybody else in, rather than a sort of slight wayfish player like McAtee.
Well, and with that, I'm just going to segue into the third story, which is to do with the B team. And my segue is the fact that Forest had already signed Joel Ndala from Manchester City for £5 million, with the intention of playing him in the academy, in the B team. And with regard to the B team, obviously, Jamie wanted to let us know about the match that Forest played in the PL International Cup. And that was a really exciting one because Forest are through to the final. Now, our man, George Edwards, was at the semi-final earlier this week. Let's hear what he had to say.
Just walking back to the car after a very enjoyable youth game. Forest winning for once in extra time and not waiting until it goes to penalties. Very enjoyable game, actually. Forest obviously got a very good early start with the goal that was disallowed for offside, but after that Bilbao did really grow into it. They had a lot on the ball and a lot in wide areas, balls into the box, but Forest did deal with most of them reasonably comfortably. They ended the first half as the better side, a lot more in possession, a few chances, but nothing really of note. Second half was quite flat, to be fair, very even, not much between the sides, a lot in midfield, but not really much in terms of both boxes. Jack Nadim played really well in midfield. I was impressed with him, sort of right winger, but slotting in, always available as well. So I was really impressed by him. Didn't really have much up front until we made the substitution for the striker that came on. He gave us much more of an outlet. And Lewis Graben's subs worked really well, actually. I was impressed with his game management. But the goals came in extra time, obviously. I think Forest have got a set-piece coach. I'm pretty sure of that for the youth team, because whenever we had a corner defensive field going forward, there was a man, possibly who could shout the loudest, who came up and was commanded. And we scored from it. Nice little move and a good finish. And then Manny Norkett, my old classmate, off the bench, won a penalty, a bit of pace, and stuck it away very comfortably, very calmly to make it 2-0. I think by the end, a reasonably comfortable victory for Forest that they possibly deserved. They had more stamina, I thought, in the second half of extra time. And Bilbao were quite desperate towards the end defensively. They never really looked like conceding. Zach Abbott, you can see his first team experience, and now coming in, he was commanding in the middle of the three centre-halves, winning his headers against the striker and very comfortable on the ball. And to be fair, all three of the centre-halves did very well. It was a quite physical battle at times, which is surprising for a Spanish team, particularly a youth team, you'd think they maybe be on the ball, on the floor a lot more, but they'll possibly be stronger in the air, actually. So, yeah, very convincing win for Forest. Good to be in a final as well. And, up the Reds.
All right, thank you very much there, George. We hope you made your way home through the wind and rain there. And Maradona, it's one of those things, isn't it? Always good to see the youth teams doing well. Well, we talk a lot about the women's team as well. Seeing these teams doing well is really important because it's a sign of the health of the club, the fact that the club are looking after the various different elements there. And so getting through to the Premier League International Cup final after a season in which, let's be honest, in the league, things went a little bit stop-start, nothing, finished 15th in a 26-team league. So getting into that cup final is a real achievement, isn't it? And seeing the work that the players are doing and the resilience to win the match in extra time, really positive stuff, yeah?
Yeah, it's really good for the prestige of the club to be sort of going up against some of the big hitters of European football and reaching the final like that is can only be good news. It means something's going right in the club, and the players must have, despite the poor league form, must have something about them. Hopefully it augurs well for the future of the club, and hopefully one or two of them can make it into the first team sooner rather than later.
Yeah, also worth pointing out the last league game of the season was against Leicester City, and that was a 2-0 victory for the B team. And of course, Leicester famously put a lot of time and money and resource into their academy. So it's a good sign again of Forest's progress of not only having a Cat 1 academy, but the fact to take on those kinds of teams. And sure, it's just one match, but yeah, to get into, to be in the mix, if we put it that way, and to be able to, compete. The league isn't the most important thing for a B team or an under-21 team, is it? The league is something whereby it's a case of getting matches under the players' belts, giving them the experience. And as George said there as well, that leads to opportunities. So even though Zach Abbott hasn't had that many minutes for the first team, the fact he's training with the first team is also meaning that he can be in a real leadership role for the young players and show that there is a potential route to progress.
Yeah, and also, you have to bear in mind that we are playing catch up with teams like Man City and Arsenal, who've been sort of at that top table for so many years and been able to invest so much money in their youth setups and have their sort of first choice pick of all the young players that come through the country. So we're up against it in that sense. So. It's not easy competing against those teams, so maybe that's why the league form isn't great. But yeah, the bit of first team experience he's had, I'm sure would have been helpful. It's not a daunting prospect to play at the City Ground for somebody like Abbott now, even if it's just only a half empty one on a wet Wednesday night as it was. But yeah, it's all good. It's good news. And hopefully we can win it.
And speaking of trophies, we'll be talking about the trophy-winning women's team and the trophy-competing men's team in part 2 of this podcast in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need, have coverage options to protect the things you value most, file a claim right on the State Farm mobile app, and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Welcome back to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Now, just before Maradona and I move on to talk about the women's team, let's just mention the other story that Jamie brought us, which is that the season card renewal date has passed. So presumably, listener, if you are joining us for this podcast, you'll have been well aware of that season card renewal date, and you'll either have renewed or you won't have done, I guess. So obviously, I think the only thing I'll just mention is that we've seen in recent years that Forest have brought the renewal dates. They always used to be one of the few clubs who'd leave it until the summer before asking for renewal. And although it's a big ask financially for people to commit before the season is over, now that we're a Premier League team, it absolutely makes sense, doesn't it, Maradona?
I suppose so. I don't know. The demand is so great there now that they can get away with putting those deadlines in place. In the old days, people used to wait and see which division we were going to be in. Just
as a curio, harking back to the Championship days, apparently at the moment, every single team in the Championship can either go up or be relegated, or is actually in a position to still do either. So imagine renewing your season ticket if being which division you're in was going to be a deciding factor. I have to say, although I think the Championship is a great league, I don't miss being in it.
No, I was just watching the Derby-Luton game a bit earlier, and God, the quality's terrible. I remember we used to say, when we used to see teams like Liverpool and Man City playing, that, oh my God, it's like another sport. And again, I was thinking, God, we're playing a different sport to Derby and Luton now. It's like chalk and cheese.
I think we probably always did play a different sport to Luton, even when they're in the Premier League.
Even the pitches, they've got a retro pitch at the it's not the baseball ground. It's Pride Park. It's like all brown and bubbly, and they've got one of those dot matrix scoreboards from the 80s. It's like stepping back in time.
Well, people often say that about going to Derby, don't they? Anyway, let's move on to the women's team. And, of course, the women's team who've been having a great season. And last week, they won 7-0. And if they can get 4 more points in their last 2 games, that will secure the Northern Premier Division title and promotion to the Championship. And we saw goals coming. Charlie Welling set up Nat Johnson to fire home in the 26th minute, and Mel Johnson managed to also score a goal. We saw goals from Charlie Wellings and indeed another one from Mel Johnson. And then in the second half, Mel Johnson got her hat-trick, Wellings got another one, and then last but not least, Mel Johnson got a 4th goal. So it was a really, really top day for the Forest women. They are top of the league. So 20 games played, 16 wins, 4 draws, no defeats. Level on points at the moment with Wolves, who are on 52 points along with us, but Wolves have played a game more. And of course, let's not forget that they've already won the cup. So while winning a trophy is good, Championship football next season really is a must, isn't it, for the women?
I think so. I think their display this season has shown that they're probably over-resourced for the division they're in. They're playing teams like Liverpool Feds and Rugby Borough Women. I don't know who they are. So they're probably, it's a bit being a big fish in a small pond there. So it was probably a necessity just to get out of the division this season. Hopefully they can secure those 4 points. No reason why they shouldn't be able to, having done that. And then hopefully they'll be playing against a better standard of team next season.
A couple of things. Firstly, the next match is against Stourbridge, and Stourbridge are very firmly bottom of the table. They've only won 2 games. They have got a goal difference of -65. They're on 5 points after 20 matches. And then the last game of the season, and by the way, everyone, the scheduling couldn't have turned out to be worse, because it is against West Brom, but it's on Sunday the 27th, when many Forest fans will be heading down to Wembley. So if you are not heading down to Wembley and you are in Nottingham, please get down to the City Ground. It's a 2:00 kickoff on that day to show your support for the Forest women. The other thing is, going back to your point about being over-resourced, I mean, Adam and I have talked about this quite a few times in our women's show. It's a very clear intention by the club in terms of going professional and putting lots of financial resource in there to have a team who are already at a level where they can compete in the division above. And some of those players, and the most obvious example that Adam keeps talking about, and all of us keep talking about, is Charlie Wellings. Charlie Wellings could easily be a WSL striker. So they've obviously thought about that. Now, let's move on and think about Forest playing against Tottenham on Easter Monday. Because of the bank holiday, we've already had Nuno's pre-match press conference, and he did play his cards close to his chest as usual with regard to injuries, but he did say that neither Ola nor Taiwo Awoniyi have trained with the squad on that day, and they are still carrying some problems. Ola Aina, it's one of those things. It's not just about his ability, it's the fact that he provides presence and balance in the team, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just a calm influence as well. He just offers everything. It's his physicality, his pace, bringing the ball forwards, carrying it up the field, and just the defensive cover as well. It's just a brilliant all-round player. That's why so many people think he's been the best right back in the country this season, and he'll be up there for Player of the Year for the Forest squad as well. So what would be a brilliant bonus if he is fit. But if not, we'll just have to sort of carry on without him. We're a better team than them. The league table shows that. We've got better players than them. And as I say, every time I'm on, if we play better, if we run harder than them, work harder than them, stay focused, stay organised, we'll beat them. So we just got to do all the basics.
Everton out-Nuno'd us, didn't they? And I can't see, bearing in mind that Ange has more or less rigidly stuck to the same tactics, regardless of whether they're working or not, I think that hopefully gives Forest something to go with, because I can't see Tottenham sitting back and kind of playing us at our own game. That's not the way that they work, and it's not the way that Ange works. So it means that Forest, if they do what they do well, as you mentioned, they should be on course for a result, surely.
Yeah, and if Tottenham do what they're sort of programmed to do, which is sort of attackers, that falls right into our hands. And I don't think the Tottenham fans will let them sort of sit back and play in a cagey way. They'll be booing them after about 20 minutes if they're not having a go at us. So hopefully it will fall into our hands. They're not. I mean, they just got gaping big holes all over the pitch in their team, and then we've got the players who are perfectly placed to exploit that sort of thing in Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi and Morgan Gibbs-White. So hopefully the game goes well. Yeah, the game goes as it should do on paper.
Okay, thank you very much to you then, Maradona in the Midlands. Thank you to Jamie and George for your contributions to this podcast, and thank you, of course, listener, for joining us once again. Just a reminder, you can find all of our social media links and where you can find our podcast, and that's all available if you go to 1865.football. We'll be back with a match report following that game at, I was going to say White Hart Lane, it's just called Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, isn't it? At the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Monday, and we'll be back with a special Friday 5 next week where we'll be previewing the big FA Cup semi-final match. In the meantime, come on you Reds.
That takes us up to... You've moved the league table now.
I have moved the league table off the screen.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Breaking news coming in from